Good evening, and thank you for joining us today in our session. We welcome back Dr. Dori Poulos, and it's been 2 weeks since we last, 2 months since we last met. And at that time, we provided a COVID updates as well as monkeypox updates, and we will do the same this evening. So welcome back, Dr. Poulos. Let's see, we will start out with the questions that we have here at hand. There's a lot of confusion going on right now with the numbering of the variants and subvariants. Oh no, wait, you're going to provide your update.
Yeah, yes. That's right.
Oh,
that's
okay. my goodness. Okay. Yes. It's been a whole 2 weeks that we've taken a rest. So yes, Dr. Poulos, provide us your update from your session with the Kane County Health Department.
Okay. And as usual, the format, I'll say things first in English, then in Spanish. We had our Kane County Health Department Advisory Committee meeting this morning. And of course, we cover many topics, but one of them is always COVID. And it's good, kind of like the good news, bad news. The good news is that the numbers are much improved and Kane County is in a low transmission status right now. Bad news is that I think it's misleading or inaccurate to say that the pandemic's over. It's not over, it's better. You know, I think we have to accept, at least for the time being, that it's going to be part of our lives. We have to protect ourselves. Just to show you where we're at, there was that first slide that we had, Natalie, from the meeting that shows the average daily cases reported to the health department. And so there it is. So there were 92 cases. I mean, you could read the slide, but there were 92 cases over the last week. And the last week, there were, the last week that we got the statistics were there's 7 deaths. And we'll talk more about the vaccines later. And you can see that really high bump there was the Omicron surge from early this year. But there's been little bumps and ups and downs since that time too. So it's not fair to say that we're totally out of the woods. So regresando en español, apenas hoy tuvimos la reunión del condado de Kane, Departamento de Salud, una reunión para avisar al condado, al Departamento de Salud, de varios doctores y enfermeras que se juntan cada 2 meses. Y hay muchas cosas que discutimos, incluyendo salud mental, pero un asunto que siempre prestamos más atención en los últimos 2 medio años es la COVID. La COVID todavía está con nosotros, es menos, es más controlado, el nivel de transmisión se considera baja, pero hay que, todavía se puede ver que la línea no está en 0. Por ejemplo, en la última semana tuvimos 7 personas que murieron de COVID. Y el número de personas que padecen de COVID probablemente es más que lo que estamos contando porque tantas personas están haciendo las pruebas en la casa. Entonces, so returning to English for my overview, there have been some updates and changes by the CDC. For example, that quarantine, everyone is moving away from the more intrusive ways of dealing with COVID, such as universal masking, et cetera. That's pretty much gone, except for healthcare facilities. And after an exposure, though, the expectation is to wear a mask for 10 days and to test 5 days after an exposure. Now, that's not the same as for a documented illness. The documented illness advice is a little more complicated. The CDC gave this 5-day rule earlier this year, which I'm a little ambivalent about because people say, 5 days, I can go back to work. Well, no, you can't if you still have a fever and you're coughing up a storm. 5 days, if you're better, and still wear a mask, a good mask for another 5 days. Entonces, hay varias cosas que nos dicen que sí las cosas van mejor. Por ejemplo, la CDC ha cambiado su aviso sobre la cuarentena, que después de tener contacto con alguien con la COVID, que se puede, se puede estar en la comunidad, pero usando una máscara buena como la N95 por 10 días y de hacerse su propia prueba 5 días después. So basically it's not over. You can even, going back to English, just reading our local paper, the Courier News, in the past few weeks, in addition to various articles of local interest. There's updates on both local updates from the health department, opinion pieces, and articles about the booster. So if you want to be informed, you can be. Hasta que leyendo en nuestra periódico de Elgin, la Courier News, se puede ver que todavía hay bastante información que nos enseña que todavía estamos en la época de COVID. Lo que no sé es porque no estoy leyendo los revistos que son en español, pero probablemente que sí hay información allá también. So that was my overview, and turning it back to Martha now for her questions.
And Doctor, just to clarify on the Spanish, the CDC recommendations, the slide that Natalie had put up there about quarantine, the 10-day or the 5-day was for exposure, but if you're actually
exposure,
sick,
yes, quarantine means exposure. If you are ill, that's called isolation, aisladar, ¿verdad? So, cuarentena significa que si estás en contacto sin estar verdaderamente enferma. Hay otra palabra que se usa para una persona que es verdaderamente enfermo. Esa persona tiene que isolarse. Es diferente. Okay? So that's kind of a distinction I would like to make for people.
Okay, muy bien.
It's confusing.
Mhm.
Okay.
Very good. Very good. Okay, and so now are we ready for questions? Or did you need anything else? Okay, very good.
No.
There's much confusion on the numbering of variants and subvariants. Can you clarify?
Well, I was, for a long time, we've been in the land of Omicron. They started out with the wild virus, which doesn't have a Greek letter. Then they started going through the Greek letters. And they only got up to Omicron, which is only about halfway through, a little past halfway through the alphabet. And then they then they started getting into these mutations that aren't quite different enough to deserve their own Greek letter, but different enough to create different immunity or contagiousness. And it gets awfully confusing. But just so that we know that in the Midwest, currently it's BA5. And all these sub numbers mean how many mutations there are in the gene that gives you, usually it's the spike protein, the little spiky things around the COVID virus. So the thing to be aware of is that the new booster is targeting these Omicron subvariants, and the booster is called bivalent because half of what you get is for the new subvariants and half is for the wild type virus. So, se puede confundir bastante y básicamente el tipo de COVID que entró en el mundo hace 2 años y medio se llama el tipo wild, natural, el tipo original. Y después tuvimos varias mutaciones o variaciones que se nombraron usando el alfabeto griego. Estamos usando solamente la letra griega Omicron porque en los últimos muchos meses, como 10 meses, el tipo Omicron originó en parte sur de África como fines del año pasado. Pero todavía estamos viendo este tipo porque las mutaciones son diferentes, pero no tan diferentes para merecer tener otro nombre. Lo que el paciente tiene que saber es que la vacuna que va a recibir las nuevas vacunas, que son las refuerzas, son mitad y mitad para el Omicron y para el tipo original.
Okay, muy bien. Do I need to stick with the same vaccine brand that I received previously?
No, I have a chart later on that goes over that in some detail, but in particular, the mRNA vaccines, the Pfizer and the Moderna, are definitely mix and match. So I tell my patients, just get what you can get at your pharmacy where it's convenient to you. Or if patients it's been 2.5 years, people have developed their own prejudices. Oh, I like how I felt after one, not how I felt after the other. Fine, but medically speaking, they can be sort of mix and match for those. There's a couple slides later on that talk about the sequence for boosters and so forth that we can get to if you want to put it up now or if you want to put it up in a minute. Yeah. La pregunta fue si es importante recibir el mismo tipo de vacuna. Las dos vacunas que son de Pfizer y Moderna son muy similares y no importa. De las otras vacunas, la Novavax y la Janssen, es importante tratar de seguir de la régimen que se está demostrada en esta línea. Francamente, si se va para recibir la vacuna a su farmacia, a la oficina de su doctor, con su cartilla de vacunas, ellos van a saber qué le toca.
Okay, muy bien. Okay. If I have dose 1 and dose 2 of the primary COVID vaccine, do I need to take the original booster shots for those, or can I go directly to the new Omicron booster?
You could go directly to the new Omicron booster because by now, if for some reason you never did get the original, the 2 boosters that were recommended earlier this year, or if you were too young to qualify, because if you recall, the boosters had different qualifications. Nope, just go ahead and get the new one to get better protection. So la pregunta es, si por alguna razón, por ejemplo, hay personas que son jóvenes y no fueron elegibles de recibir la refuerza anteriormente, pero la nueva refuerza que se llama el bivalente, eso sí se puede recibir y que se vaya directamente a esta refuerza.
Okay, muy bien. Okay, we have 2 options for the new Omicron specific COVID booster. The Pfizer or the Moderna. And just a little while ago, you said, when I'm taking my primary, my first, my second, I can maybe mix and match the mRNA vaccines. Which one should I get? Is there a preference of one over the other?
Well, the Pfizer is approved for anyone who's over 12, and the Moderna booster is approved for anyone over 18. Okay. Otherwise, it's either personal preference or what you can get more easily. And you need to be 2 months away from your primary series or from your last booster, which, talking to most of my patients, most of them are. So, la pregunta fue si quién está elegible por las refuerzas del tipo Pfizer. La refuerza de Pfizer hay que tener más que 12 años, y del tipo Moderna hay que tener más que 18 años. Y hay que haber pasado 2 meses desde hace la última vacuna de COVID.
Okay. How soon after a COVID infection can I get the new COVID booster shot?
Officially, there's no restrictions. I think it would make sense to at least get past the actual infection. Make sure you're feeling better, your fever's gone, you're not coughing. For most people, it's 10 or 14 days. There used to be, people have this idea, which is wrong, that has to be 3 full months. That is not the case. That never really was the case. What was the case? That there were some treatments that made it necessary to wait 3 months. And those treatments aren't used anymore. Some of the recombinant treatments, some of the sort of like the blocking antigens that were given. So it's so the 3 months is not an issue. That's a common misconception. La pregunta fue, ¿hasta después de qué tanto tiempo de estar enfermo se puede vacunar? Y la respuesta es, no hay ninguna recomendación que de esperar se puede vacunar inmediatamente. Lo lógico es de esperar hasta que se siente mejor o se siente ya curado, ya regresado a lo normal, que usualmente es 10 o 14 días. También con los tratamientos anteriores, algunos tratamientos, los más fuertes, como Regeneron, si se acuerda de eso, tuvo que esperar 3 meses, pero ya no se usa este específico tratamiento, ni los anticuerpos de las otras personas que han sido enfermos. Entonces, no hay, no hay que preocuparse de esos 3 meses.
Okay. Another question is, they say that the new subvariants are evading the protection that's provided by the new COVID booster, the Omicron specifically booster vaccines. So should I take this new Omicron booster or should I wait for a more effective booster?
Well, I actually haven't heard that. That could be true, but there's always viruses that evade the protection from a vaccine. There is no vaccine that I'm aware of that has 100% protection. I think that the wise and safest thing to do is to take the booster that's available now, because yes, there might be something in the future, but to sit around and wait for it, you might get COVID in the meantime and end up with long COVID or some other complication, or give it to a vulnerable person that you love. So no, get the booster now that we have now. So la pregunta fue si la nueva refuerza es suficiente efectiva para protegernos o si tendremos que esperar tal vez por una vacuna que va a ser aún más efectiva por un nuevo tipo. En mi opinión, no, que tomamos ahorita mismo lo que tenemos ahorita mismo, que en el futuro tal vez vamos a tener, o casi cierto que vamos a tener otras vacunas mejores, más específicas, nueva ciencia, pero pero de esperar no sé qué, 6 meses, 1 año para algo mejor, no me parece lógico, porque en este tiempo se puede enfermar o pegar a otra gente. I think this would be a good time, Natalie, to put up those little schedules. I think the blue one is the better one for most people. Yes, this was from the health department meeting, and it's kind of a busy slide, but they're trying to make it easy. It talks about your average person, not immunocompromised, whatever primary series you have. Most of the primary series, including Novavax, which is fairly new, you get the booster in 2 months. And this is useful for someone that decides, I've been sitting on the fence, I'm going to start getting vaccinated. They've never had the vaccine. You don't start with the booster, you start with the primary dose. The Janssen, which is limited to only certain people, because that was the one, I think it was the old Johnson. It's pretty much the old Johnson & Johnson that had some risks of blood clotting, but for some people, for some ethical reasons, find that preferable. That is a one and done. Is that you still get the booster in 2 months. So describen en una manera tal vez más sencilla. Por casi todas las vacunas se toma las primeras 2 dosis y 2 meses después la refuerza. Hay la vacuna de Janssen, que es solamente una vacuna, 2 meses después la nueva refuerza. The next slide has a similar outline, but for people that have immunocompromised conditions. So that one is a little different, and it gets into the different age groups. I wasn't going to spend a lot of time on it because that's not for the average person, it's for the vulnerable person. No quiero discutirlo mucho, pero nada más que ustedes sepan que una persona que tiene, por ejemplo, cáncer o tiene un trasplante de riñón, alguna situación que se hace muy más delicado, hay otros regímenes de atender, pero estoy cierta que su médico va a saber qué avisarle. So I think we can, so I think we're done with those slides, or unless you want to leave the blue one up for a while we do our next questions, if people want to take notes on it or something. Okay.
Okay. Now, another question is with the new Omicron booster, are the side effects the same or different from the previous boosters?
Pretty much the same. I'm hearing the same kind of things. Well, sore arm, a low grade temp, a little achy, a little fatigue, maybe. The vast majority of the patients that I talk to that have had it so far have some type of mild symptom for a day or so. I had the shot last week and my arm hurt for 36 hours. That's better than not breathing, I'll take it. So, yeah. And so entonces, de esa nueva vacuna, ¿cuáles son los efectos secundarios? Ahora, las reacciones son lo usual como casi todas las vacunas. Dolencia en el brazo, una leve calentura, sentirse fatigado, usualmente que duran un día, 2 días. No he oído de reacciones muy exagerados. Lo usual.
Muy bien. Okay. Can I get the new booster and the flu shots at the same time?
Definitely. You can, and I think that's one way to start thinking about COVID. Not so much that it's over, but that unfortunately it looks like something we'll have to live with, at least for now. I don't think it's going to be eradicated the way we were able to eradicate smallpox. So if it boils down to turning into a thing that every fall we're giving ourselves a flu shot and a COVID shot. Unfortunately, COVID, we haven't quite gotten to the point where it's a once a year coming around like flu does, but maybe we're going to get there. But think of it like it's something you do routinely. You can get it 2 in one arm. You can get it 1 in each arm. You can do them together.
Okay.
So, la pregunta fue si se puede vacunar de la gripa y de COVID de una vez, al mismo tiempo, y sí. La respuesta es que sí, hasta que se puede poner en el mismo brazo, si son aparte como 3 dedos, o en los 2 brazos. Y yo creo que eso para mí significa que tenemos que empezar a pensar en COVID como algo que estamos viviendo con eso, como vivimos cada año con la gripa. Pero lo podemos batallar con vacunas, con el uso de la máscara en algunas situaciones, con sentirnos, con ser lógicos, con ser personas lógicos. So I encourage people that it's also more convenient to get the 2 vaccines together. De una vez, si se está acostumbrado a vacunarse de la gripa, yo estoy casi cierta que su farmacia va a tener la vacuna de la COVID también. Las oficinas de su médico, tal vez sí, tal vez no. Por ejemplo, mi oficina no lo tiene, pero hay otras que sí.
Well, and that's a very good point that you make, Doctor, because I think right now, I know that they reported that Chicago and Cook County and the collar counties have gone into low risk mode from medium. And so I think it gives people a sense of false security there that this is over or is this coming down, when we know that the winter months are coming and typically we see spikes when that happens. So
the winter months, the holidays, being shut inside. Yeah, so might as well be sensible.
Yeah. Le digo a la doctora que anunciaron hoy que en Chicago, en el condado de Cook y en todos los condados en el área de Chicago, el riesgo de COVID bajó a mínimo a comparación, había estado a mediados y bajó a mínimo hoy. Y entonces esto nos da el sentido de que esto ya terminó, pero no hay que dejarnos engañar, ¿verdad? Porque viene el invierno y como dice la doctora, vienen las celebraciones, los festejos que se vienen de Thanksgiving, de Navidad, y ya pues todos los que hacemos, lo hacemos ya adentro de nuestras casas o lugares y pues el riesgo empieza a aumentar otra vez para que no dejen de protegerse al vacunarse, porque creo que es bastante importante hacer eso. I also wanted to add one thing. I'm going to ad lib a little bit here because I was doing a little bit of research and I read that the Israelis have actually done a study where they have gathered antibodies from all of the COVID viruses that have come about, and they have applied it to people who are vulnerable, and they've found that they are responding really well to that, and it's protecting them against even the new.
So it's like a pooled antibody treatment.
Yeah, like a pooled antibody treatment. And they said that if that is successful, that really the only people that will need to vaccinate going forward would be those people that are vulnerable and immunocompromised, and that maybe the general population will not have to undergo, the yearly vaccine treatments. So
I'm not sure. I'm not sure of that. I'm not sure of that interpretation. I'd have to see a lot more of that because that pooled treatment assumes that you get sick and you access the treatment, so that logistically prevention is better than waiting for people to get sick and trying to treat them. And who knows how expensive you get into those pooled sera are from many, many donors, there's a lot of technical issues. So I would question that conclusion. The fact that this treatment exists, in which I haven't read that study, so I'm just extemporaneous myself. The fact that treatment exists is always nice to have another treatment, but I don't think it's going to be a replacement for prevention.
Sí, claro. So, le digo a la doctora que he leído que los israelíes han hecho estudios y han encontrado que si toman anticuerpos de todas las viruses que hemos tenido del COVID y las juntan todas y se las aplican a las personas vulnerables o que tienen el sistema inmune comprometido, que han reaccionado bien y a los nuevos variantes de COVID, y que de ser así, es probable o es posible que en futuro solo se le tenga que aplicar vacuna a las personas vulnerables o con sistemas inmunes comprometidos, y que la población en general quizás no tenga que inyectarse vacuna anualmente. Esto apenas son estudios nuevos que se están haciendo, pero de menos algo prometedores de que a lo mejor haya una solución para esto en el futuro. Pero ahorita por lo pronto es aconsejable vacunarnos, ¿verdad?
Sí.
Claro.
Sí. Pues yo tengo dudas de esa conclusión porque siempre es más fácil, es mejor prevenir que esperar de enfermarse y después conseguir un tratamiento. Hay tanta gente que tiene dificultades en irse al doctor, al hospital. No sabemos qué tanto caro va a ser ese tratamiento especial. Yo creo que es otra opción, especialmente para los pacientes más vulnerables, pero la población en general, en mi opinión, por el futuro, por lo pronto vamos a pensar en la vacunación para prevenir con el primer paso más útil. Pero de ese estudio tendrá que leerlo o leer más de eso. Pero es interesante.
Sí, y el tratamiento no es esperar a que se enferme la persona, sino aplicarle los anticuerpos antes.
Ok. Eso, ya. Pero eso es interesante también porque es algo similar que hacemos, por ejemplo, hay personas vulnerables, por ejemplo, permítame, que son
inmunocomprometidos.
Infantes prematuros que se dan un tratamiento para prevenir algunas infecciones, pero es bien difícil, tendrán que venir cada mes para la inyección y yo creo que eso va a ser útil para algunos pacientes, pero para la gran mayoría de la gente sería mejor vacunarse en el futuro. Vamos a ver.
Mhm. And just to clarify, I just clarified to the doctor that the study that I read actually spoke about applying those antibodies to people, not necessarily as a treatment for COVID once they're infected, but as a preventative to COVID. So we'll have to see how that plays out over time. And if, but I thought it was kind of that little glimmer of hope out there that we might hold, because as you say, right now, there's not much that indicates that this is going away. And I think we still have to be very aware that it's there and do our due diligence and get vaccinated. We know vaccines work because we saw the effect that it had once the vaccines became available. And so right now, Doctor, you had mentioned earlier today that I think people are in this false sense of protection that they received dose 1 and dose 2, and maybe one booster, maybe not. And they think that they're protected, and now they're protected against those original viruses, but not against the new subvariants.
Not only that, no, I talked to patients that got vaccinated in the winter, like, February, March of the year 2021. And they said, well, I'm fine, I did that. No, they're not, because first of all, that immunity has worn off. And second of all, the problem is that there's a new variant. So whatever immunity you had was to the wild type virus, not to the Omicron. So you're not protected. You have to take the next step. It's sort of like someone saying, I got my tetanus shot when I was in high school. So if I step on a rusty needle today, I'm fine when I'm, 60. No. So, no, get the booster. La pregunta es que las personas que se sienten saludables o sanos, protegidos porque tuvieron la vacuna original. La vacuna original ya tenemos año y medio, más que año y medio. Y también fue una vacuna por un tipo que ya no es muy corriente. Las refuerzos en el cuerpo se bajan con el tiempo. No estás protegida. Si recibió usted la vacuna en febrero, marzo del año pasado, hay que ponerse la refuerza ahora para tener nueva protección contra los nuevos tipos del COVID.
Okay. And just a reminder that the library will be hosting a vaccine clinic next Wednesday. They'll be doing it the first Wednesdays of every month through the Aurora African American Health Coalition, who is the organization that's coordinating that. And so those clinics will be from 4 to 7 p.m. in the Meadows rooms, and you're welcome to come in. No appointment is necessary. And it's for any dose of the vaccines as well as any of the boosters. So feel free to step in. Quiero solo recordarles que el próximo miércoles 5 de octubre de 4 a 7 va a haber una clínica de vacunas, ya sea primera, segunda dosis o vacunas de refuerzo. Esto se va a hacer cada primer miércoles del mes de 4 a 7. La próxima la van a hacer aquí en la biblioteca por la Organización Afroamericana de Aurora de la Coalición de Salud. Con esto queremos pasar al tema del monkeypox. So with this, we want to move on to the topic of monkeypox, and the doctor will provide us with an update.
Yeah, there's a few quick updates. I only have like 2 slides on this. The first slide was that grid one. The numbers have been low in Kane County. Doesn't mean that, and there's probably a number of reasons for that. I think also that I don't think monkeypox is going to be at all as big of a public health issue as COVID was, also because the signs of the infection are so obvious as compared to something that's very vague like a cough and a fever. So at the moment, our numbers are still low, which is good. And if you go to the second slide, there are certain clinics, Open Door, and for sure, Open Door Clinic, which is in Aurora and Elgin, and I believe several of the federally qualified health clinics that have the vaccine. The treatment is available by request through the health department. That's something that since there's only been 11 cases in the whole county, it's not been something that I have encountered, or probably most doctors, but we know where to go if we need to get the treatment for a patient. So, las viruelas de mono han sido un problema no tan fuerte como estábamos muy preocupados como hace 2 meses, si se acuerdan, pero los números aquí en este condado son muy bajos, solamente 11 pacientes. La vacuna se encuentra, la vacuna no está recomendable por todas las personas, solamente con algunos riesgos específicos, y se puede conseguir en la clínica de Open Door, que tiene oficinas en Elgin y en Aurora, y se me hace que estoy casi cierta que se puede encontrar también en el VNA y en la clínica de Greater Elgin. De eso no estoy exactamente cierto, pero creo que sí. El tratamiento es experimental y nosotros, los doctores, tenemos que conseguirlo hablando con el condado. A mí personalmente no me ha ocurrido de necesitar ordenarlo, pero yo estoy cierta que eso es algo que lo vamos a poder hacer con la ayuda de nuestro condado, que es muy experta y siempre disponible para ayudarnos.
Muy bien, muy bien. Well, with that, we'll close our session today. Again, a reminder that we have a clinic next Wednesday from 4 to 7, no appointment necessary. Vamos a cerrar la sesión de hoy recordándoles que tenemos una clínica en la biblioteca el próximo miércoles 5 de octubre de 4 a 7. No se necesita cita si se consiguen todas las vacunas que están disponibles. Remember, we will be coming up to the holidays, the Thanksgiving holiday before our next session. I read somewhere that it's advisable that if you're having an indoor gathering of people in your home, that it can't hurt to crack your windows open and get that air circulating inside the house. Antes de los 2 meses, que es la próxima vez que nos vamos a reunir con la doctora, vamos a tener ya el festejo del Día de Acción de Gracias de Thanksgiving. Y pues como todos nos reunimos en familia, en casa, dicen que es aconsejable abrirle un poquito a las ventanas para que circule el aire en la casa y no perjudica y a lo mejor es sano. Entonces, happy Thanksgiving holiday, because we won't be talking to you before then. La próxima yo creo que la hacemos la semana después de Thanksgiving. We will probably be getting back together again the week after Thanksgiving. So until then, thank you, Doctor, for the time this evening and for the updates. I think it's good information that we're sharing. And hopefully the numbers will be manageable going into the fall and winter. And we'll have good news at the next session. Okay.
I hope so too. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.